Tuesday is April 1st, the most magical day in the internet, where projects long in development hell suddenly come to life with casting news. That suddenly Wolfenstein, adaptation of Activision's seminal game, is being made by Guillermo del Toro and starring Chris Hemsworth as Sergeant BJ Blazkowicz. What a wonderful news this will be when it is announced, and about 5 seconds after you read that title, you know it's complete bullshit. It's April Fool's Day, and the internet goes hog wild with lots of bullshit stories to the point where it's more of a contest of who can be the most ludicrous. It's not who can be the most believable, it's who can be the silliest between these websites. One of the most that did deceive me was the realization of Mimic, Guillermo del Toro's film, a director's cut coming out on Blu-ray and DVD several years ago. That was an April Fool's joke, but thankfully one of the few that actually turned out to be true. Though, to be honest, I would see a Castle Wolfenstein film directed by Del Toro and starring Chris Hemsworth as BJ Blazkowicz. But coming out on this April Fool's Day is probably considered by some one of the greatest April Fool's jokes, one of the greatest jokes in cinema of last year. And that is 47 Ronin, directed by Carl Rinch and starring Keanu Reeves. The story revolves around 47 Ronin, masterless samurai, who after their master is tricked by a witch into striking a fellow lord, is forced to commit ritual suicide. The Ronin gather together and seek revenge against this other lord. Now, I saw the movie and it was okay. It's one of these films that is certainly influenced by 300, where it tries to blend a little more fantasy into the reality, a little more Japanese mythology, and unfortunately, it's one of those films where you can tell it was tampered with in post-production. There were rumors of reshoots and re-edits, and there is looking at it, and with the opening Kieran Hunt, that seems to be the kind of film they were going for, a very fantasy-based reality, and I kind of want to see that film. I can't fault 47 Ronin production-wise in terms of technical aspects. The film is gorgeous, cinematography is great, production design, costumes, makeup, hair, the whole kit and caboodle is fantastic. The rest of the film, it's okay. It's not the worst film I've ever seen. It just seemed to me like a real lost opportunity. Keanu Reeves, okay, whatever, he's there. The Japanese actors were absolutely phenomenal, and you actually, full honesty, you probably cut Keanu Reeves out of the film and made it just about the Ronin without him. It would have been fine. As is, I think for me, 47 Ronin needed a lot more fantasy. It needed to bring that more to the forefront rather than having these smatterings here and there. Because then they just seemed a little out of place, and they just seemed a little bit lost. Almost like watching The Lone Ranger when you have the little rabbits eating each other at the campfire scene, and the talks of silver bullets and Wendigo. Because way back when Lone Ranger was starting, it was supposed to be Lone Ranger fighting werewolves, and that's why he uses silver bullets. It just, and when they ultimately made the film, it was very realistically taken. It wasn't the Pirates of the Caribbean take on the American Wild West. But those artifacts still remained and felt out of place. And so that's what 47 Ronin, the film, is to me. It's like a fantasy script they wanted to twist more into a real life movie. And unfortunately, they have these artifacts in there that just seem out of place. They're not put in there richly enough. But this isn't a full review of 47 Ronin, which I might do later. It was an alright enough movie. I didn't think it was that bad. But in order to get myself some more views, I'm going to do a mockbuster review. And I'm not going to review an silent film, because this is the mockbuster. I'm doing a review of another film about the 47 Ronin to get some views up and maybe get some interest in me. Who knows, it might work, probably not. So, I did a little bit of hunting online and found and ordered the 47 Ronin by Kunio Watanabe. And this is a Japanese film from 58. Sorry, forgot about that. What you see here, the alternate title is Chush Shush Ingura. I do not speak Japanese. I know a little bit Deutsche, Klein Deutsch, and only a few words in Hangul. Yogi Seo. So come here. My parents always use that on me. So I don't speak Japanese. I'm pretty sure I'm mispronouncing this right, but Choshungura is the whole. It's more an umbrella terminology placed towards the legend of the 47 Ronin. Uh, there are dozens and dozens of films, range from live action to anime. Apparently, there's even a Hello Kitty version in a comic book. There are hundreds of comic books, television episodes, documentaries. This is one of the big legends of Japanese history. This is one of the big ones, almost like Custer's Last Stand, a little bighorn kind of scale for us Americans. Um, Arguably, this one though had a little more tactical brilliance to it than Custer did. Um, so this film is from 1958, so it is during the time of like Akira Kurosawa and such. Interesting fact about this is actually it is shot in color, and it is that early color sort of pastel sort of look about it. Um, once I have the only actor here I recognize was has a very small role. He plays one of the father. He plays the father of one of the Ronin, and he's actually the doctor from. He's the professor from Gojira, Toshiro Honda's film, the original film. He has like a 5 minutes of screen time, and that's the only actor I can recognize. It's from Dai Studios. Once again, I really have no idea about these Japanese actors or studios and such, and I kind of feel bad about it. I really couldn't find much information online about many of these actors beyond the fact they're actors and films that they've done. And the director, Kuno Watanabe, I couldn't find any films by him that are in the United States. They're all in Japanese titles according to IMDb. But this is a much more if you're a big fan of Akira Kurosawa like I am. I love his favorite film. Mine is actually Ron. I like that more than Seven Samurai. Loyal 47 Ronin. I would have to say give it a watch. It is a very with some caution. It's a very historically based drama, historical take on the material. And when it starts, the story it does because the story is that Lord Asano, who is the lord who commits seppuku, he's shown to be this young guy trying to get his place, and he's constantly being insulted by this visiting lord and representative of Lord Kira. He's representative of the emperor, and it struck me very, very weird when I was first watching it because Asano's freaking out over a simple thing like the mats in his house, the screens, the decorative screens that you see in a lot of Japanese or Asian homes. The ink. Kira is lambasting for the ink is wrong. Asano's wearing the wrong ceremonial dress for an event. He's wearing a slightly altered version. And when his head guard presents him with a correct version, because Kira told him to wear the version he is wearing, he's tearful. He's so happy about this. So it doesn't start out with the way that you would think it would in terms of Kira giving these big personal insults. Saying, "Oh, your wife is a whore" or something like that. It starts off with stuff that would seem very comical to an American audience, of simple things as, is your house in order? Do you have proper mats? Do you have the proper clothes? So it does seem a little humorous, but then again, put in a context of Bushido and the samurai lore and legend and reality of honor and everything being just so, and everything has to be just perfect. It does make a lot more sense. The problem, the big thing during this whole time is this is the first 20 minutes of the movie. and it's jumping around so much that what? Well, come here, come here. Sorry, Licorice is looking at me like, oh, why aren't you paying attention to me? Come here, up. Come here, I'll give you cuddles. Come, hello, be on camera. You people like you. So the first 20 minutes of the film where you're seeing Kira effectively being a dick. He doesn't care much for Asano. He thinks Asano's just effectively a backwoods hillbilly. So he has no respect for him, and that ultimately leads Asano to strike him at a ceremony, and Asano has to commit seppuku, harikiri, or ritual disembowelment, because of this. And the first 20 minutes are I will say are not that good, just because getting past sort of the strangeness of the ritualistic style of culture, it jumps around so much. Scenes just kind of end. It seemed, someone's going to start, someone says something like, okay, what's the next time going to be? It cuts to something else. It's jumbling all over the place. But once you get past the first 20 minutes, and I will say it was a little tough because I was sitting there really wondering, it's like, oh my god, is the whole rest of the film like this? The film then hits a stride. It hits a much more, calmer tone. It is much more watchable. The first 20 minutes, I'll be upfront and say, are not that good. Simply because of the editing is rather poor. The choice of when to cut is very poor. But I would say this is a 2 hour and 45 minute long movie. So there is a lot to go through. And once you get past that, what you see is quite a bit of... This is a very chronological film, and it details almost everything that the samurai the Ronin are doing, led by their lord's former counselor, Oishi. From the initial thought that they will defy Kira, they will defy the authorities and simply hold on to the castle. Because they feel, obviously, Asano was wrongfully forced to commit suicide. So they're planning to basically stand up and say, no, we will fight to the death to protect our lord's honor. Oishi makes the decision, no, we will... That worse is lets us all commit suicide. And then right at this scene when they're about to do it, he says, wait, stop again, which angers all the samurai, because they're saying, first you want us to fight to the death, now you're saying, now you want to rob us of this honorable death. He says, no. Kira, our enemy, the one who caused all this, is still alive. Our master would not be happy knowing that. So that's when the film really begins, at about the 45-minute mark, when the samurai do begin the plot to kill Kira. And over the next 2 hours, a lot of it is spent back and forth as Oishi begins to try to gather followers among the samurai, and he really has to keep the tempers cool. And that's what makes this film much more interesting, is because the samurai are not all instantly, yes, we're going to follow you, this sounds like a great plan. Some of them are saying, this is ridiculous. The law says that because Kira was cut, because he was struck first, we have no reason for vengeance against him. Asano acted out of place, so we're done with this. You have others who are saying, many of them are saying, we should attack now, we should kill him now, while our blood is hot, while public opinion is on our side. And Oishi is constantly having to fight not only some corrupt officials, as he's trying to get Lord Asano's relative in his place so they may continue being samurai, but he's also having to fight his own followers. And so there becomes this very interesting political dynamic where you have this group of men who are in a way united by a common goal of revenge, but completely divided by how they're going to go about it. And ultimately, Oishi finally forces them to go with his path of playing for the long game. Licorice, come here. I'm almost done. I'm probably not, but whatever. I'm sorry. She wants to go for potty. Sorry. I don't have a pause button on this thing. Oh, I know. Come here. But Oishi so that's when it gets into much that. Sorry, Licorice, come here. Oh, and so that's when you get to the territory of break in the story. Then fractures with the various different samurai. It does primarily focus on Oishi, but you bring in a couple of more of the characters who, I admit, were a little hard to follow of who exactly was who, as some of them are trying to figure out information where Kira is, what the inside of his house looks like, and trying to set themselves up as legitimate businessmen or travelers or merchants to cover up their trails. And you have others who are dealing with their family and friends who are enraged by the fact that they're cowards. They haven't taken revenge yet, and that also drives more wedges between Oishi and his followers, some of them who are starting to say, "We're now being cowards. Our honor is now more in question than ever. We need to seek revenge now." So, there is this very fractured, a very divided dynamic among the 47 Ronin. It's not a clear-cut, we're all in for this, which was not something I expected. I expected one or two scenes of, we should strike now, no we shouldn't, we should wait until his defenses are down. Okay, I agree with you, or no, I don't agree with you. 20 minutes later, there's another scene where they make the final decision. This is a continuous theme throughout, this continuous element throughout the film, is this discord among them until they finally unite and take their revenge. So the story, it's a very methodically paced story. It's very, it's very meticulous. Like I would assume, like every detail was described here. No stone was left unturned. And I would say there's not much action scenes in this whole 2 hour and 45-minute film. The most amount of action is the final 20 minutes, which is the raid on Kira's house. So the story is, it's a 2 hour 45-minute long film, which is rather long for a revenge film. But honestly, once I got past the first 20 minutes, that's when it started grabbing. That's when I got more and more interested, and that's when the film began to flow much better for me. The only difficulty that would come maybe to someone who's hasn't watched a lot of foreign films, or maybe a lot of Japanese films of the period, is the acting does edge a little to the over-top melodramatic during the more emotional scenes of, basically crying and shouting, their words out. But that's something that, I had no issue with. Watching enough of these films, it's just a normal thing, I would say, for what I've seen. From a production aspect, the film, it's in color, so it's it's not black and white, so it looks gorgeous. The costumes are beautiful. The sets, some of them are obviously sets that they built in some backlot. Others are probably real locations. But yeah, overall, mostly because this little girl wants to go, so I need to finish this up. But yeah, overall, the loyal 47 Ronin. It is long. It is 2 hours and 45 minutes. But I would say, if you're a fan of samurai films, if you're a fan of Akira Kurosawa, if you're a fan of samurai movies, if you're a fan of, these old style period dramas, I would say hunt it down and pick it up. It's released by a company called Anime Igo. Anime Ego. I'm pretty sure I'm mispronouncing how they're calling their company. But the picture looked good. I mean, it's a DVD. I really rarely buy DVDs anymore. I always buy Blu-rays. But no, this is a pretty good film. Yeah, if you're a fan of, yeah, I would highly recommend it. If you want to see a much more obviously a realistic take on it, a realistic drama on the Tale of 47 Ronin, I would say hunt it down and pick it up. Or if you're just a fan of Kurosawa or you're a fan of this genre film, I highly recommend it. It's a good film. Once again, I will say the first 20 minutes, mostly because of the editing, the choppiness, the jump around style of editing, I think mostly because maybe they're trying to set up a lot of material before they get into the meat of the story, does offset, it does, instead of making a nice easy transition in the film, it makes it pretty hard. And I did almost turn it off for 20 minutes because I was going, this cannot be the whole movie. If it is, I'm not going to bother with it. But otherwise, no, this is for 47 Ronin, it's a good film. It is much better than the Keanu Reeves 47 Ronin. So this is available on DVD now, and I would recommend picking a copy up. I think you would enjoy it. And this is not me saying, oh no, it's so bad it's good. No, this is a legit good movie. So yeah, this is a film I would wholeheartedly recommend. Not because it's so bad it's good, but because it's just good. On a 5 scale, I would probably give it a 3.5, 4 out of 5. A big loss predominantly for those first 20 minutes, where once again the setup is so chopped together. It didn't really set it up as good as it could have. It didn't flow as good as it could have. But otherwise, I would recommend it. And if you want to watch this and then 47 Ronin, go right ahead. Might be a fun double feature. So I need to take this little girl outside. So say bye bye, Licorice. Bye bye. Okay, let's go. You're gonna get me views.